Hello and welcome to Tiny Desk Knitting with Emma. Today it is Saturday and it is very blue and sunny and gorgeous, and I think it's gonna be like in the 50s today, which is good because I'm going on a hike, so that'll be really fun and I'm looking forward to that. So welcome to my channel. I said this last week at the very end. It's like I should really do a little bit more of an introduction these days, or at least once these days, because I had a video go up like a month ago that got like 4,000 views and I got a ton of new subscribers, which was awesome. I don't know how the algorithm works, but I was like, wow, cool. No idea why, but like awesome. So I figured that I would introduce myself. So as I said last week, it's like if you watched all the way to the end and I said, oh yeah, I should introduce myself like more. My name's Emma. I am not a full-time knitter, but I am a full-time hobby knitter and spinner. And my job, I work at a university. Oh, there's a plane. If Nitin were here, Nitin is my best friend. If Nitin were here, he would know what plane that was. But I don't think he knows by the sound, but maybe he does. So Nitin, if you knew what plane that was by the sound flying over our house, put it in the comments. So, anyway, I work with university students full time. I work as a advisor and coach for them, students who are not doing super well, and students who are doing very well and just want to check and make sure they have the right plan. So, sometimes people refer to me as an academic therapist, which is why I frequently will go kind of get into some deep cuts, here, talk about some below the surface level stuff. And I started this channel a couple of years ago when I was spending a year as a COVID nanny, because higher ed jobs were very hard to get during COVID, at like the really like bad time of COVID when everyone was distance learning, just because the budgets were not friendly for new hires. So because I couldn't find an academic job, I decided to go with a family from Vermont who I met in Vermont, but both of the parents are from New England and mom was from Vermont. They had 3 kids and they said, we need a new au pair because the au pair that we're supposed to have for this academic year can't come because the visas are not being given out. And so, at first it was kind of for a couple months, maybe she would get the visa and then I could go back home. But then it became apparent that like that would be kind of a lot of upheaval for a bunch of kids during, COVID, and me and the family got along really well. And so I stayed for almost an entire year. I think I was with them for about 11 months, like September to the following August. And while I was there, a lot of the time one of their kids was home on Zoom school, or they would be all home on Zoom school for snow day or COVID scare or whatever it was. And this was in Washington, D.C. So I was living on Capitol Hill during January 6th. Super fun. But starting in I think it was in January, I think I started the channel in January, but maybe I didn't start it until March. Maybe I'm completely crazy and can't remember anything. Regardless, they all eventually did go back to school, and one of them was away every other week at school, and then she would be home the opposite weeks, because half of her class would go for 1 week and half the class would go the opposite week, just so they could have fewer kids in the classroom. But for kindergarten and preschool, which the younger 2 were in at the time, they went every day. So I had a lot of downtime, and then in April they were all there all the time. So that was I did a ton of tiny desk knitting then. So I decided to start a knitting channel because I would have something to do with my brain, and I would have projects to work on every week. And I was already knitting 8 hours a day, because let me tell you, even when you're sitting with a kid on Zoom school, she's sitting at the laptop most of the day and you have to do something. And so I would knit, and I would listen to Agatha Christie mysteries. And then I would be available for her, we were in the same room, or if she needed something, I could go get it. And, when she had her breaks, we would go on a walk to Trader Joe's and buy groceries. And anyway, so I started tiny desk knitting because I thought it would be fun. And the kid's dad, he sometimes would do interviews for NPR. He's a pandemic expert. And he was like, you should call it tiny desk knitting, tiny desk concerts, because you're also a musician. And I was like, that's a great name. And I was recording at a teeny tiny little kid's desk. So that's why I called it tiny desk knitting. So Tom gets all the credit for that. And I have to say that I loved being a nanny. I really thought it was a fun way to spend a year. I didn't really want to do it all the time, but you know, because I had all this experience working with, you know, college age students, which I wanted to use. But I really thought it was a fun way to spend a year. And I think that I became more like this type of person before COVID, but definitely COVID kind of made it more of a thing, that sometimes opportunities arise and you're like, what? Why would I ever do that? And then you kind of think, why would I not do that? And it's like, that's how I kind of felt about moving to Washington. It was like, why would I move I saw this ad on like Front Porch Forum in my hometown, in my neighborhood, and I was like, why would I move to Washington, D.C. and be a nanny for 3 kids? And then I was like, why shouldn't I move to Washington, D.C. and be a nanny? That's an adventure. Like, that is, I'm gonna have like lots of great stories about that. And I'm gonna learn whether or not I like children and I can take care of them. And, you know, I had a great time. I did. And then now I still live in this area because now I live in Baltimore, but I really liked it down here, and excuse me. And I loved Baltimore, and I knew about Baltimore because my best friend from grad school, Nitin, he was living here. He still lives here. So I would sometimes come here on the weekends and just hang out like on a Saturday, and we would walk around and, you know, eat outside because it was 2020 and 2021. And I was like, this place is great. It's really cheap. They have lots of cool stuff to do, lots of history. You know, the climate is still 4 seasons, even though it's really hot in the summers. But, you know, I just liked it here. And so I thought, I would like to stay in this area. And I already have this like friend here, and I'm going to move in with roommates so that I have this community. And I'm going to, you know, I had a really hard time when I went to graduate school in Philadelphia, and I'd never even been to Philadelphia. And it's just, I lived by myself. It was really hard to make friends. And I said, let me have a do-over. Let me move to a new city and do it right. And let me tell you, I've been here for like 14 months, and I'm like, this place is great. I never want to leave. So I'm very like, you know, happy here. So now I live in Baltimore, and I work at UMBC, which is a university just outside the city in Catonsville. So that's just like a little bit of background on who I am. But we can talk about knitting now. So if you have any other questions for me, you can always email me. My email's in the description box, and or comment or whatever if you need to know any more information about me or you're just dying to know. So anyway, let's get down to business. So the first thing, once again, I'm going to tease you the Jane Bennett socks. These are the Jane Bennett socks. I finally brought some. This is a sample that I don't think anyone has seen. And the reason is because the second sock, I dropped a stitch somewhere like on the back, and it like kind of came like a little like clump of it, just stitches is just like open, that came apart during blocking, or like it tore in the blocking bath somehow or something. I don't know, maybe I could like hooked it on my key before it went to be blocked, whatever. But this one is good, so I can photograph this one and I can fix the other one. But this one hasn't even been photographed yet. This is a sample in At Haynes House yarn. I'm gonna show on this side because there's some green blips. And at Haynes House, Terry owns At Haynes House, and her whole Haynes family works with her. That's why it's called At Haynes House. And we met at Maryland Sheep and Wool Frederick Fiber Fest last year, and they're wonderful. And she used to work at Barnes & Noble, and she's like really into books and reading. And so she actually had a Jane Austen collection. And so since my socks are all named after Jane Austen characters, we decided we would collaborate a little bit. And so this is her Jane Bennett colorway, and it's called Who Could Blame Poor Jane? And it is beautiful. It's yellow, like a beautiful light yellow with these green speckles kind of throughout that I'm really a fan of. So it's here, you can kind of see some of the green speckles. It's super light. And I made shorties because it was a summery color, and I wanted to use the leftover yarn for a t-shirt. I paired it with one of her other yarns that was yellowish, and also a kind of a spin cycle color shifting yarn. It's like a yellow, orange, and pink shirt. It's awesome. It's a little t-shirt. Anyway, love that. This is the original sample of the Jane Bennett socks. Here, I'll actually take this off the blocker so that I can put one of these on, because the lace is the main event. So this version has twisted rib cuff, regular, for me, 64 rounds of leg. I dyed this yarn myself. So that was the challenge of the original sock challenge. The challenge of the original sock challenge. I can definitely speak English very well. The challenge of the sock design was to use my own hand-dyed sock yarn, which I had tons and tons and tons of. So I decided to pick 13 colors and design 13 pairs of socks. and in 1 year, in 2022, and I almost did it. I have 2 left, but I was like, it's more important to knit samples of the ones that are coming out now or soonish than it is to get to those ones. So I'll get to those ones when I get to them. But this is the Jane Bennett sock. So all the socks are named after women from Jane Austen novels. So Jane is first. There's a twisted rib cuff on this sample. I did a second one, which I don't have because it's photographed and it'll be in the pattern, but I sent it to a friend in England, my host mom, Catherine, host mom and close colleague. We say host mom. She's like, I wrote my entire master's thesis about this person. So I sent this to Catherine for her birthday because they were her favorite color. And I had initially thought, like when I got this yarn, I was like, oh, I should make these. I oftentimes know who I'm going to make them for when I have a color. So so I sent those to her already, but those have a 2x2 rib cuff. So they're a little different, but you'll see in the photo. Let me turn it this way because there's the little notch in the top from where I wove in the end on the other side. So this has got an all over lace pattern. It is not intuitive, which is kind of annoying, but you can memorize it. It is beautiful. So I chose the colors of my own handspun, hand dyed. I chose the colors first and then I kind of matched them to the characters. And so I thought that this was kind of nice for Jane. It was like a kind of pale, but it had these specks of magenta and navy and little fireworks of real emotions that Jane has. If you've never read Pride and Prejudice, you can watch the movie. I love Jane Austen's novels. It's named after one, in fact. But I also love all the TV and movie adaptations where I love laughing at them if I don't love them. So I would recommend the Colin Firth and Jennifer Ale Pride and Prejudice, which is like 6 hours long on BBC. And it's 5 hours long. It's 6 episodes that are 50 minutes each, so it's 5 hours long. And you can watch it on Hulu. At least right now, you can watch it on Hulu. So I have a last sample. So each of my sock samples, or each of my sock patterns has samples in the hand-dyed yarn that I did, at least one commercial yarn, at least one yarn that you can buy at the Woolly Thistle. If you don't know what the Woolly Thistle is, you should Google them. Their description box will be, their link to their shop will be in the show notes. The Woolly Thistle is an online yarn retailer located in West Lebanon, New Hampshire, and they import yarn from the UK and Europe and all over the world that's super woolly and beautiful, and I do tons of work with them, so they'll be able to have kits of this sock set, which is Rama Vendre yarn. So it's a worsted yarn. It's very thick. I used 2 skeins of the pink and 1 skein of the cream for these. So if you found me through the Woolly Thistle, which many people did, or you know about the Woolly Thistle, they have a sock bag. Most summers they come out with a sock bag and they tell you what types of yarns are in the sock bag, but the colors are a surprise, which is like the most fun thing ever. They also do larger selection boxes a few times a year and like other boxes where you get like mystery colors, but you know what the yarn is going to be. So really exciting thing. And this yarn came in the 2022 summer sock bag. So if you got the sock bag and you don't know what to do with your Rama Vendre yarn, my Jane Bennett pattern will be coming out in the next week or so, and you can knit these. So there's basically their patterns are all written for small, medium, large. So 56, 64, and 72 stitches, or like thereabouts. So around those numbers. And then if just in case the multiple doesn't go into that, or the pattern repeat doesn't go into that number, then we've adjusted a little bit. And then there's a DK version, or in this case, this is worsted, but I used the DK version. Like at the end of the pattern, it'll be like, make me DK. And then there'll be like just one size, just 48 stitches. So you can make it smaller or larger depending on your own foot or gauge based on that if you want. But 4 sizes for socks for me is a lot of work. So please don't ask me to put more sizes in because, the size just has to do with the circumference. If you're not familiar with knitting socks, you knit them as long as your foot is, but the circumference varies. Okay, so look for those. I'm gonna give you a sneak peek, you've probably already seen them, of the next sock as well, which will be coming out in another month or 2. So, I always drink something while I'm recording. If it's early enough, I drink coffee, and I didn't get up until like 7:15 today, and I'm recording at like 8. Maybe it's 8:15 now because I've now been talking for 15 minutes. And So it's like either a smoothie or a bubbly water or coffee or tea. So today it's tea in my mug from Knittin', who has been on the channel before. If you want to go see our conversation from, I don't know, I would like to say it's probably like September or October. Maybe it's even from August, hard to say. But anyway, I recently got a coffee bean grinder, which people have been telling me to get for my whole life as a coffee drinker. I only drink 1 cup of coffee most days. Yesterday I drank 2 because I didn't get enough sleep. I just couldn't, I don't know. I slept for like 5.5 hours and I was like, it's gonna be a 2 coffee morning. So I usually get up early, like naturally my body just wakes me up before 6:30, which is when my alarm goes off. And yeah, but sometimes it gets me up like too early, like 5:45, and then like by 6 I'm too restless and I have to get up and go spin or something. So in that case, like I'm at home for 2.5 hours before I go to work, and then I can have 2 cups of coffee. But caffeine does affect my sleep. If I drink it like at 11 in the morning, if I drank a cup of coffee, it would make me find it hard to fall asleep, I think. So coffee, 1 cup of coffee in the morning and 1 cup of tea, English breakfast tea when I get to work. I only drink PG Tips. I'm super fussy. Sometimes I drink Earl Grey. I'm not as fussy about Earl Grey. For English breakfast, I will pretty much only drink PG Tips unless I'm not the one making the tea, and then I'm just like, bring me English breakfast. I don't care. But anyway, I got a coffee bean grinder, and everyone told me to get a burr grinder. Like, by everyone, I mean like the 3 or 4 people in my life who are like obsessed with coffee. And I love that I'm not, that's not intended as a dig, because I'm obsessed with yarn. People are obsessed with coffee. And that's cool, like coffee prep methods. I think that's like, everybody should geek out on whatever they want to geek out on. And I'm sure some people watching this love their coffee prep methods. So if you are feeling strongly about that, please write it in the comments, because I love hearing about people feeling passionate about something. And I did not get a burr grinder because they were too big. Like I can't fit that on my kitchen counter. I could fit it, but like I have a lot of other stuff on my kitchen counter, and like I'm the only one in my house who drinks coffee. So like putting the bullet blender base on the, you know, on the counter is okay, because at least 2 people in my house drink a smoothie almost every day. And so we have to have that out because it's a reasonable thing to have out, like the toaster and the kettle. So I got a little Cuisinart electric grinder because it was $15 at Target. And I have to say, I have noticed a difference. It tastes better. And I make it a little stronger, I think. I used to use 2 scoops of ground coffee. And I wasn't picky about where I got it. I usually get my coffee at Costco because I have a Costco membership. I might start getting it elsewhere now that I grind my own beans. I don't know. Like I might just go to a roaster and like get them and see if they're really, really good. And if they are, that's worth the money. But I can, you know, get 2.5 pounds for like $10 at Costco. And they're, I know I get to grind the beans and it's fresh every day. So anyway, I put 2.5 scoops of beans into this little thingy and I grind it fresh every day. When I lived with the kids and the parents, when I was a nanny, they had a coffee grinder just like this one, and Tom would let his little guy use it with him every morning, or every 2 or 3 mornings. But they would grind like enough for us to have like, that was like 2.5 days worth of coffee for 3 coffee drinkers. So I'm just grinding every single day fresh. So anyway, it's better. But I don't have a burr grinder because I don't have room. But I know it's better. I know it's better to have a burr grinder. I just don't, because I don't have room. Or it's like $50. I could buy it, but I'm like, I don't know. That's fine. I'll wait until, at least until I live with someone who drinks coffee every day like me and who is fussy about it. So now it's been 20 minutes and I should probably start talking about some other things. This might be a long episode, but the last couple ones were short. So this is something that I teased a couple weeks ago and then I completely forgot to show it last week. So this is the Lamina Cat wrap by Amba O'Brien, and it's a mini skein adventy project that is written for 25 mini skeins and then 1 main color. I did not knit this during Advent because I was knitting Christmas knitting. I was knitting gifts the whole time. I knitted this when I was at home for Christmas over about 3 weeks, and then I finished it when I got back here. But I picked out from my own scrap stash 25 colors of greens and teals and blues, a lot of blues. There's a little color bleeding around this one, which is, I think, due to the hedgehog fibers colorway here, which was just really saturated. I should have blocked it in cold water. That's my own fault. More blues. Getting into blue purple. This one is blue and purple, as you can see, and then purples. Ah, I dropped it. So 25 colors and white. Huge, big wrap. Hopefully this is the screenshot. If it's not, I'm just gonna like stop it while it's here, and I'm gonna take a screenshot of my computer, and then I'm gonna put this as the background so that everyone clicks on it. I'll hold it up here so you can see these. So most of these I did dye myself. Sorry, I'm gonna come back from here so that this doesn't muffle the sound. Most of these I did dye myself. And I can tell you the ones that I didn't specifically, like I know that much. Like this I didn't dye, this is Madeline Tosh. This is a yak sock that I dyed. This is an 80-20 that I dyed. This is a Knit Picks Hawthorne that I dyed. This is a 100% BFL sock that I dyed. This is this merino single that I dyed for the City Limits sweater. This is not mine. This is Farmer's Daughter Sock Club in the yak base. Super fun. This I did dye. This is just an 80-20 sock yarn. This guy is Quince & Co. Turn, which is a silk merino sock yarn, and beach glass. This I dyed for my July socks this year. This one is a single that I dyed. This one is one of the very first merino singles I ever dyed. So you can see it's got all these white in it because I didn't know how to use citric acid properly. This is Hedgehog Fibers sock yarn in Wish, which is a yarn that I lusted over after all of Lent in 2019 because I don't buy yarn during Lent. I mean, I don't buy yarn at all anymore, but like it really almost, unless I have to because I have so much. But it used to be a thing when I was in grad school that I would give up buying yarn during Lent, and that was what I bought on Easter. This Hedgehog Fiber sock in Wish. Turns out that yarn actually really hurts my hands. I don't know why. Maybe it's the content of the nylon or the angle of the twist or something. It also bled. So makes me, I love Hedgehog Fibers and I don't think anyone should not buy them, but it makes me feel better that I also can't afford it. And I also just didn't like the feel of the sock yarn in my hands. This is Knit Picks Stroll in, I don't know, Aurora Heather, something really, really dark blue, Midnight Heather maybe. This I did dye. There's stripes of this in my Velocore t-shirt that I made last summer. It's like knitted with an orange Zauberball, crazy Zauberball, and then the blue stripes every like 10 or something, or 5, and so it's really fun. This is a cashmere merino nylon sock yarn that I dyed for my Anne Elliott socks, which I gave to one of my friends from University of Toronto. She has them. Now I always give people, like I said, I knitted those socks with Catherine in mind. I also knitted the blue socks with my friend Rosine in mind because I don't know, I always knitted her things that were burgundy because she loves that color. She wears a lot of black, and so I would knit like burgundies that goes with black. But I don't know, it seemed like another jewel tone. I was like, I'll branch out, I'll knit her something that isn't burgundy. And I tease her when she turned 27. I used to call her Anne Elliott because Anne Elliott is 27. And then when I turned 27, I was like, that was rude of me. And she was like, it's okay. Anyway, I don't think she watches this, but if you are, how's it going, Rosine? This is West Yorkshire Spinners Signature 4-ply in Juniper. I didn't dye that one. This guy, I have used that for so many heels and toes of socks though. So many. This is Knit Picks Hawthorne in Alameda, which is the purple and blue. Monica and I used to buy tons and tons and tons of Knit Picks yarn back in our first year of grad school. Once again, Monica still hasn't been on this channel, but it'll happen. Tomorrow we are spending the whole day together doing church music stuff, so that's fun. She still won't be on the channel unless I film her talking while we drive to DC and she drives. This is a sock yarn that I did dye. I don't know if I ever used it for anything because it was a 50-gram skein, so I probably didn't. I had plans for it, but then I decided against it. This is a sock yarn that I also dyed. This is from my November socks, which I probably just showed a few weeks ago because everyone asked me where they could get the pattern, and I was like, you can get it in like a year and a half when I release it. Fanny Price socks. This is a sock yarn that is Romney and nylon from Vermont, from Hands and Heart Farm. I didn't dye it, but it's a beautiful Vermont farm yarn. This is the woolliest yarn in this. This I dyed It's a merino single that I dyed for a sweater that I still have, but I never wear it because it's a merino single. But I could wear it on the channel because I'm not moving a lot. It's not getting stretched out. This is a merino single that I dyed for nothing in particular, but it's super, super pretty. It's got like lots of like darker purple flecks, which is hard to see with the lace pattern, but it is really fun. This I dyed for a Love Note sweater for my cousin Annie a few years ago. So I paired it with a purple mohair, and it's like purple and pink and totally variegated. I don't know if she wears it. She lives in New Orleans now because she goes to Tulane, so it's probably too hot there, but I did make it for her. And then this last one is this was the contrast yoke color for this sweater. Anyway, so in case you wanted to see every single color in this wrap, I'm gonna put it on. It is truly a one-of-a-kind piece. Like, I love that about it. And I thought it was really fun to knit. I don't usually like purling very much, so it was kind of nice to purl with really like soft yarn, which is like soft on the hands. So yeah, I really like it. Yeah, that's that. I didn't think I would enjoy making it. Okay, one other FO. So I tease a lot of things on this channel and then I don't do them just because I'm like all over the place. Oh, my arms really hurts because I actually went to the weight room this week 3 times because I don't really like going to the weight room at work when there's kids there because I always get like a cold 2 days later because nobody ever cleans off the machines. But I've decided, I always wear a mask in the weight room because there's so many people in there, but I've decided to just like put the mask on, do not remove it, clean my hands with you know, use a cloth to wipe off the machines, but you never get all the germs. You know, hand sanitize afterwards, wash my hands as soon as I get back to my office, although I usually lift weights and then I run for 2 or 3 miles on the treadmill and then I go back to my office. I digress. I did go to the weight room and now I'm very sore. So yeah, okay, but I teased this last week and it is done. So this is the cowl that I was working on with my hand spun. It was a BFL, mixed BFL from Nest Fiber Club from October. The colorway is Forage. I did look that up. So it's like the pink and green and it's really funky. I just kind of spun it in a somewhat fractal manner that wasn't exact. The white is a border Leicester yarn that I got at Maryland Sheep and Wool. It did come as yarn. I did not spin the white yarn. But this is a Norwegian Selbu pattern from the book Selbu Patterns, which you can get at the Woolly Thistle. Or anywhere you get your books, but it'll be linked in the show notes from the Woolly Thistle. So yeah, I just kind of decided to do this. The inside, surprise, surprise, Surrey Alpaca and Knit Picks Palette. I held 2 yarns together. This is not fully dry yet. It's mostly dry on the outside, but it's not as dry. And it was really hard to tell how well it would block out. Like, I'm always a little nervous about that, but this really blocked beautifully well. Like, I mean, you can really see that crisp Selbu color work there, and it's just like so much fun. So I'm really trying to knit with more hand spun this year because I have a lot of it. You know, sometimes I make hand spun for people that I know who knit. Like, I gave my mom a bunch of hand spun for Christmas. Sometimes I make hand spun for my roommate Hannah because I want to spin and she can design her own colors and it's fun. She's knitting, or just finishing actually, on Andrea Mowry's Shift Cowl she used Scout, Cowborn Woolen Scout in the white and also a purple, but then so the whole background is white, but the blips shift between a handspun BFL that I made her from stuff that I got at Rhinebeck, I think, and then the like purple Scout. It's really cool. So she's almost finished with that, and so I just gave her the rest of this in case she ran out of the hand spun. But yeah, we're gonna dye fiber this morning, so that's why I'm recording early. Oh, I didn't use jasmine wool wash for this. I used I must have used the stuff from Soak. I don't usually like Soak, but the pink one smells really good, so I sometimes use that. I prefer to use eucalyptus. I like the jasmine scent. I also like the lavender scent, but I don't have any. The jasmine scent really lingers and it's like a beautiful smell to me. Some people don't like it. But anyway, those are my FOs. This cowl I'm gonna publish someday this year or next year, depending on how many patterns I have coming out. Might get bumped to the end of the queue. But I do really like this, and I think that folks will enjoy knitting it and lining it with something really soft. If you're like wondering, you know, what it's like to design a pattern like that, you can look up The Snuggle is Real by Maxim Cyr, I think, has this kind of thing. It's like there's the outside is like, his is really slouchy. This is gonna be much like tighter around the neck. But it's the same kind of idea. He just held Surrey alpaca double. I would prefer to hold Surrey alpaca with something else, just because Surrey alpaca is expensive and it goes a longer way if you hold it with a yarn that's like wool, but also soft. You could hold it like a fingering weight single. That would also be like a good use of that. But it just makes it really comfy on the inside of your neck, and it makes it a little slouchy, which means you can kind of wear it inside, but then you can also pull it over your face. Okay, sorry, I got distracted. Now we're gonna talk about whips. I just have to make sure I was gonna say everything. I made my show notes. I wrote down all the things that I needed to talk about in a Google Doc yesterday so that I wouldn't forget, because I got super sidetracked, and then I wouldn't like forget anything when I went to like get the stuff to record and then like realize halfway through recording that I didn't have this, which is what happened last week, and then it was too late. Okay, so I'm still making progress on my long road cardigan, which I'll show you. And I don't actually work on this that much. I should work on it more, but this week it's been a little crazy. So as I told you last week, I blocked the top to see if the cables would relax, and they did. And now that I've done more cables, you can really see the difference between these ones at the top and then these like kind of like angry cables here at the bottom, because I did a few more. But I did get a few repeats, or I got like 12 rows done or something yesterday in the morning before work. So that was really productive. So I was really excited about that. So as you can see, there it is, getting longer. I'm just layering myself up with so much knitwear right now. This is the top. Looks like a vest right now. Someday it will be a cardigan, maybe even with a hood, depending on how much yarn I have. This is, if you missed the last two episodes, this is Brooklyn Tweed Shelter and Button Jar. I have like 11 skeins of this in my stash from their Together Apart sale back in 2020. Thought it was time to use it, and I'm really enjoying it. It's really soft. It blocks out beautifully. It has tons of tweedy flex. I have used Brooklyn Tweed Shelter before as like stripes in a project, but it's so expensive that I could never afford it, you know, in graduate school. And I got like a sweater quantity when it was on sale, but this is the year I knit with a lot of Brooklyn Tweed, because I've got a bunch in my stash, but also because I'm knitting sweaters for both my dad and my, I don't know, Mark is my well, he was my organ teacher and my choir director when I was a kid. He's like my mentor from childhood, and we are still BFFs because we like to talk about church music together. But I'm making Mark a sweater and my dad a sweater. They're both like my dads, I guess is a good way to put it. But my dad has never wanted a sweater, but he said he wanted a cardigan, and he was like, can you make it? I was like, yeah, I can make a cardigan. Like, you just cut a sweater. And he was like, I've never seen you make a cardigan. And I was like, for Pete's sake. So I'm making my dad a cardigan. I think his is going to be Brooklyn Tweed Shelter. We'll see. I haven't decided what yarn to use for Mark's sweater. Probably also like Brooklyn Tweed Shelter, something really soft, but also woolly. Mark definitely is someone who appreciates wool. My father is not necessarily, so we'll see. Maybe his will be like an imbue or something, like a little bit more toothy, because I know he would appreciate it. Okay, so also not done, but almost done are my Kitty Bennett socks. This is my next sock release. So these are knitted in John Arbin Exmoor sock in what's that pink name? I wrote it yesterday in the comments of their vlog, but it will be in the show notes unless it comes to me. I feel like it starts with an H. It's the dark pink. Oh man. It'll come to me in like 20 minutes and I'll just shout it, and then there you'll have it. So this is the first one and this is the second one. So as you can see, the lace panel goes down, bell heather, that's what it's called, bell heather. The lace panel goes down the side of the foot, and then it goes down the other side of the foot on this sock. So this is legitimately, I'm working on the toe. I just didn't finish it yesterday. So, and then I went to spin night, which I'll talk about in a second. So this is gonna get done in like the next, hour after, 20 minutes after I finish recording this. So Exmoor sock is amazing. It's very woolly. It does have some nylon to make it a little stronger, but it's got a great content, and I can't remember off the top of my head what's in it, but it's like Devon close wool or Devon Exmoor horn and Exmoor blueface and Corriedale, I think, and nylon. I think those are the contents, but I'm gonna link it at the Woolly Thistle. You can check it out, but I also totally recommend checking out the John Arbin YouTube channel because it's super fun. And I order a lot of fiber tops from John Arbin because they're inexpensive and they're really beautiful. They have a beautiful worsted mill. You can get their stuff as yarn or as fiber. They sell everything as both. It is so gorgeous. Everything is sourced from the place that they can tell you what the farmer's name is, basically, not necessarily always, but they have like responsible, ethically sourced wool from mostly England because they're trying to, decrease the footprint of traveling, their carbon footprint, I think, but some of their yarn comes from the Falklands, like their Corriedale comes from the Falklands. And I think their merino does as well. So like, for instance, they have this series called Knit by Numbers, which is just literally like 6 different greens in a gradient, 6 different yellows in a gradient, 6 different pinks. Like it's just tons and tons and tons of colors that are really specific, and they're all just numbered so that you can make whatever you want. I think they have it in like DK weight or worsted weight, and also in fingering weight. I think it's in 2 weights, and you can get it as top. So that used to be 100% merino, but they're actually changing their blend so that it's half blueface Leicester, because that actually comes from England, and so they don't have to transport it so far. So they just cut their carbon footprint, essentially the travel part, at least, like in half by making the content half merino and half blueface Leicester. So I love that and I appreciate them. I also ordered tops from them kind of recently, and 4 of them got lost in the mail because package got opened at customs, and John Arbin just sent me the 4 tops that were missing, because I was like, there's 4 tops missing, I don't know what happened, is there another package? And they were like, must have fallen out at customs because we checked the weight here and like in our system just now, and it seems like it weighed the right amount for 14 tops, and here, what are the ones that went missing? We'll just send them to you. And they did. And it was like a really decent thing to do because it was totally not their fault that customs opened it. So I love John Arbin. Okay, that's the Long Road cardigan and the Kitty Bennett socks, and a digression. Still making progress on this Maddie cardigan by Christian Drysdale. If you would like some information about this, I just talked about it on my last Woolly Thistle segment that came out, well, for me it was yesterday, but for you it would have been like 5 days ago. So you can go watch that. But this is knitted in Bichet Bouche knitting. I'm knitting this in Bichet Bouche Le Petit Lamb's wool in very light blue and gray blue turquoise. It is going to be a cardigan, as you can tell. That's a steek bridge, so I'm going to be cutting it there after I put the button bands on. I'm obsessed with this color, the 2 colors. The yoke was a labor of love because there were a lot of long floats, but I really, really love the color, and I'm looking forward to having a lightweight cardigan. So there's that. Lots of whips. These are basically my, what I call active whips. I have one more. Very exciting. And I will have another sock whip. As soon as this kitty one's done, I'm going to cast on another pair of Kitty Bennett socks in the At Haynes House Kitty Bennett colorway, which I think is called I Don't Cough for My Own Amusement. Yeah, anyway. Fair Isle whip. So I, again, have not cast on my Inclinations cowl, but I did cast on a Fair Isle cowl. So you may have seen me wearing somewhat recently, definitely in the Woolly Thistle shopcast, if you want to go check that out. A blue cowl that I made a couple of years ago. Actually, I have a video on this cowl that I made 2 years ago when I made the cowl, and I will link the video in the show notes so you can see it. It is my own design. It's a Fair Isle cowl that's like 5 different colors of blue and then like 2 colors of gray and a white. And I talked about it in the Woolly Thistle shopcast from Friday, so go watch my segment. I'm linking the Woolly Thistle shopcast video in the show notes if you want to hear about my color theory. But I'm knitting this for a friend named Bonnie, who is a dear person. She's amazing. And she was in my choir in Toronto. She's like my mom's age. And she was like one of the professional singers in my choir in Toronto, and she's just like one of the warmest, most wonderful people in the whole world. And I don't like have, people are like, do you have an Etsy store? And I'm like, no, I don't knit, at least knitting stuff in an Etsy store. I might sell like handspun someday on Etsy if people want to buy it and I have too much. But I knit for people that I love, and sometimes they pay me. And so she was like, can I pay you to knit me a cowl like this that you had? I posted a photo or something. Because I'm going to Scotland in September, and I just think this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And I was like, yeah, I would knit Bonnie a cowl. So 2 great things are coming out of this. Number 1, someone I love is going to have something that I made that they love. And 2, I get to knit another sample and have an excuse to like neaten up the charts and then publish the pattern. So I am knitting this, as you can see, in, well, this is just a pink and a purple. This is like this is a Jamieson's of Shetland cowl mostly. So the colors Bonnie wanted were, there's the pink and the purple that I just showed, but then there's a bunch of doing blues. Here's a couple of other purples. She likes blue, purple, pink, gray. So I thought I would do this, purple, pink and gray, and then there's just like a white. There's no actual gray, there's just blues. And purples and whites. But anyway, that I'm not really anywhere near where you'll be able to see anything interesting. So I'm just keeping it on the needle here, and I'm not gonna talk too extensively about it, but I'm not sure when this is really gonna get knitted. I might just kind of keep it like this and then use it as my woolly thistle accessory cowl project. Although, as we all know, I probably won't finish it if I do that. So maybe I should just knit it in advance and then pretend I might actually knit something during the woolly thistle colorwork accessory cowl. But it's going to be blues, purples, pinks, white. I'm super excited about this. And I did just start it, so I'm not going to talk about it again too extensively. But if you've been with me since the beginning or have watched a lot of my early stuff, you know that I actually started this channel mostly to talk about Fair Isle knitting, because I was really, really into it at the time. And I still really love Fair Isle knitting. If you've seen my things, recently I did make a humongous Fair Isle sweater, but I have a lot of irons in the fire now, so it's not just Fair Isle anymore. But as you can see, color work is a big part of what I still knit and design. So cowls are easy to design because they are not shaped and they fit most people. So there's not a lot of sizing involved. Same with socks. You just kind of have, I have a recipe for the socks, for the numbers, and I just put in different charts and I plug and play and see what looks good. So for me, that makes designing easier. And I have a lot of pattern books for designs, for color work that you have to make sure that you're not using somebody's copyrighted pattern, but the Selbu patterns book, for instance, is a collection of patterns that are in the public domain from Selbu. And Fair Isle motifs and stuff, those are just, you can essentially take, what I usually do is actually when I design Fair Isle patterns is I take a lozenge outline and an X outline and I just fill it in myself. And sometimes I use chart books for some of the patterns, but it's it's amazing to just kind of fill things in yourself, and you can, and it's super fun. So I definitely encourage people to just do something like this. If you've got a pattern book, just cast on the right multiple of stitches. For instance, this had to be a 24 stitch repeat, both up and down and side to side. And I just went, started knitting and saw what happened, and now it's cowl. So that was fun. And I definitely encourage people to play, have fun with your knitting, play with your knitting. But yeah, now I'm gonna talk about spinning briefly, and then I'll be done because this is now 45 minutes. So last week I showed this spin. This is really wet because it just came out of the water, so I have to be careful with this. I showed this, I think, in the fleece that it was still in, the roving. This is a skein that I spun this week of Nest Fibers Club from December, which is called Andromeda. So it's purple, pinks, lots of orange. There's a periwinkle and an aqua. You can see some moments of the periwinkle. So I did this just fractally. And I have never had this much yardage. There was 120 grams on this bump, but I had like 530 some yards. Like this is the highest grist I've ever achieved. So that was very exciting. I'm spinning a lot more like an actual fingering weight yarn, which is like, for me, you know, I like to use it in place of spin cycle dyed in the wool. So that's really ideal, is to have that weight of yarn. So I'm gonna put this back just because it's gonna drip everywhere. So that is really fun. And I can't wait until it's dry. I can knit it into something. But, so I finished that yesterday. I applied it on Thursday. So yesterday I went to a spin night. So one of my roommates had gone to the spin night before when I was away for something. And she said, you should check this place out. It's awesome. So I decided to check out spin night at Clover Hill Fiber or Yarn and Clover Hill Yarns, which is actually really close to where I work out in Catonsville. So my friend Sarah, who also spins, if you go back like 3 episodes, you can see Sarah and me having a fun chat. She and I went to this spin night, and we brought our e-spinners. If you're wondering what that looks like, I'll show you here. This is a sneak peek of the bobbin that I'm going to show you. This is my e-spinner, Louise. It's an electric eel 6.0. It's cool. It's got Scotch tension. It only costs $289. It has 8-ounce bobbins. The bobbins are 3 for $15. There's a lot of advantages to having an e-spinner in terms of budget and space. And I like that it's portable. So I do enjoy spinning on it, especially like later at night when I don't want to sit up and treadle or something. I like to spin on the e-spinner because I can like lean back on the couch and still spin, which is really nice. So I brought Louise. Sarah has one as well. I don't think hers has a name. If it does, I don't know what it is, or she's never told me, or I forgot. But anyway, I like using this guy in like social situations because it's not as like, what I don't like about the e-spinner compared to the wheels, I actually like treadling. Like it kind of, the whole motion of the body is like what spinning is to me because I learned on a wheel. So the e-spinner definitely for me is, I'm getting used to it, the motion of drafting. But I do like that, you know, you can kind of do more like, you know, you can turn the speed to a really particular thing, use the tension and just not touch it, and your, you know, your singles will be more consistent, and they are, I have noticed. Plus it's portable. So everyone else, there was one other person who had an e-spinner last night, but everybody else had their wheels, which I was impressed with, but a lot of them had smaller ones that you could travel with, which my Thelma matchless from 1988, Thelma does not travel well. Her treadle is wobbly. I do know that you can fix the wobbly treadle. I do know which nut needs to be moved, and Nitin is gonna fix it at some point. Hopefully, he wants to. I don't make him fix my stuff. He just likes it because he likes to tinker with things. But it is fun to have a friend who's an engineer who likes tinkering with things, because he and my brother fixed Louise's speed dial because it wasn't plugged in when it arrived. So thank God. Nitin was like, something's not plugged in. It's probably the speed dial because that's not working. And then Ian took it apart and he plugged it in. My brother Ian is an actual electrical engineer, so he insisted on doing that part just for fun. But they troubleshot that together, and that was cool. So this bobbin is a gray Cheviot wool that I dyed from a big pound of that I got from Blue Moon alpacas. Which you can get on Etsy, and I will link them in the show notes. They don't always have all of their wool in stock, so go often. They might have it out of stock, but they might have it back if you go back. This is the other bobbin. I did all of this last night. This is like 60 grams of fiber total-ish, 61 grams. I think there was 30 and 31. So I weigh them out into halves, and I spin each half. One of them, this one was fractal. As you can see, there's more like blue and green. This was not fractal. This was just, the total spin is fractal because this one I ripped into pieces, and this one I just spun end to end. This is teal and green and a little blue, and this one is like blue and teal. So it's not gonna be like super color shifty, but it's gonna be fun and murky. And I really enjoy dyeing on the gray base. So this is the next one I'm gonna spin up. And I just did like 2-ounce bumps so that it would be like the same I wanted to see if I could get it to be like the same-ish yardage as Spin Cycle Dyed in the Wool, just to see, because that's kind of the goal. Is they're the goat, so I'm trying to kind of get at least to their weight. And they also inspired me to dye on the gray because of their Nocturne base, which is kind of like it's dyed in the wool, but it's like on a gray base instead of a white base, so everything is kind of murkier. So I'm doing some jewel tone yarn from these beautiful gray bases. This one is like magenta and pink, light pink and red here, kind of an ox bloody red. So I'm excited to see how this one spins up. I always braid these so that they don't take up as much space. So that's actually what I'm gonna do this morning. I'm gonna finish this sock and I'm gonna ply. I know that I should let them rest longer, but I don't like to because I'm impatient. At some point when I care more about twist angles and relaxing and all that stuff, then I will let my bobbins rest longer, but I'm too impatient. So I'm not gonna do that today. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I should now. I'm like, I have a wheel and an e-spinner and 6 bobbins for the e-spinner and 4 bobbins for the wheel. I could let things rest for 24 to 48 hours. I just don't want to because I want to see when it's, I'm like impatient. So I did learn recently, I was like, oh, I found out the reason people let them rest, super specific reason, is actually because then it relaxes the twist so you don't get as many pigtails. And I was like, well, I've stopped pretty much getting those, and when I do get them, I can kind of stop the wheel, pull them apart, and avoid them. So one day I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna get to the part where I'm like, I would never let my singles rest for 48 hours, but that day is not today. So my past or my future self is probably cringing at this. Let's just say, I acknowledge that. That's okay with me. So I'm gonna go finish my sock, do some plying, get some fiber out to dye with Hannah when she gets up. She likes to sleep in, so I'm not gonna rush her. But yeah, cool. So I'm glad that I did all of my introduction properly at the beginning, so that I don't have to be like, oh, also this is my name and who I am and where I live. You can contact me via the comments if you want, but I also have an email address, and you can contact me at barnabyknits@gmail.com, which is in the description box in the show notes. All the links to everything will be in the description box. Otherwise, yeah. So a lot of stuff that I have today is like homegrown, as in like I used minis for this, dyed this myself, spun this yarn myself. Like not a whole lot of stuff you can just buy if you like it, but I encourage everyone to try and spin or dye their own yarn or whatever. I did a segment on dyeing fiber a few months ago, but you know, it's not something everyone wants to do. So it is just so much cheaper if you're a spinner to buy like a pound of fiber undyed. Like a pound of fiber undyed costs the same as like or less. Usually costs less than a beautiful 4-ounce braid that's hand painted. So you can get 4 times as much for less than the price you would pay for the dyed yarn, dyed fiber. So it is cheaper. I like to dye it myself too. It's fun. You get whatever colors you want. So yeah, if you like this, you can subscribe, you can like, you can leave a comment about your coffee prep methods or whatever. Yeah, you can tell me what you're working on. I don't know. Tell me what you like about my channel, I guess, because that makes me feel good. Like that's what people write anyway. But yeah, fun. Yeah, let me, if you're participating in the Woolly Thistle Colorwork Accessories cowl, let me know what you're knitting and what yarn you're using, because that's fun. Let me know your favorite sock yarn, whatever. So anyway, this has been fun. It's been almost an hour and I am really hopped up on caffeine right now. So probably shouldn't have a second cup of coffee. But thank you for watching. This has been Tiny Desk Knitting with Emma. Bye.